Chapter 7.1, Objective 4. Find the inverse function of a trigonometric function. Here's the example. Find the inverse function for f of x is equal to 2 cosine of x plus 1, and state the domain of both functions. So, to find the inverse, we do a couple of steps. F of x is equal to 2 cosine of x plus 1. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change from function notation to terms of y and x. So y equals 2 cosine of x plus 1. The next step will be to swap the variables x with y and y with x's. So we get x is equal to 2 cosine y plus 1. The next step in finding the inverse is to solve for y. Minus 1 minus 1, x minus 1 is equal to 2 cosine of y. Dividing by 2 on both sides, we get x minus 1 divided by 2 is equal to the cosine of y. Remember that in this process, we're trying to solve for y. In order to get y by itself, we will need to use the inverse cosine. So, the equation y equals the inverse cosine of x minus 1 over 2 is the inverse of f. So let me write that up here. So we have f of x is equal to 2 cosine of x plus 1, and its inverse is the inverse cosine of x minus 1 over 2. Okay. All right, so let's see. We have f of x is equal to 2 cosine of x plus 1. And what is the domain of f? Well, the domain of f is what are the possible x values that we can choose for x. In this case, we can take the cosine of any angle, so therefore the domain will be any real number. Let me go back to y equals 2 cosine of x plus 1. So I will also like to find the range of f. To find the range, I am going to solve for the cosine of x, and you'll see why in a minute. Y minus 1 divided by 2 is equal to the cosine of x. Again, I am trying to find the range of f. Let me see if I can understand this particular part here. We know that the output of a cosine function is between -1 to 1. So we can solve the following inequality. That the cosine values are either from -1 to 1, and we can solve that inequality, and it will give us the range of f. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. I'm going to add 1. So the range of f are the y values from -1 to 3. So why is this information important? It's important because when we study inverses, we remember that the domain of f is the range of the inverse, and the range of f is the domain of the inverse. So in us finding the range of f, we also found the domain of the inverse, which in this case will be the x values from -1 to 3.